Hey guys, Colby from Muffler Tech, and I'm going to do a video today on what is inside of a resonator that runs the coolant lines back and forth to the engine on a Gen 3 Prius. Alright, here we are walking underneath a Gen 3 Prius, which we're starting to see quite a bit more of lately. You can see we already have the new catalytic converter installed. I'll show you the old part here where they cut it to steel it, which is right here. And what I'm going to address today is this line, and show you what happens here with this actuator valve, and we're going to find out what this thing looks like inside. All right, well, here's the patient. So I've already cut off the exhaust pipe that led back that way to the muffler. What we should see when I cut this thing apart is that this is a resonator. This is some kind of coolant exchange chamber device here. And I'm gonna make some cuts strategically here so we can kind of see what's going on. Now, safety first, got my gloves, got some safety glasses, we're gonna get to cutting. All right, first cut is done. Kind of an interesting result, not really what I expected. It's actually not a resonator at all. You can see it's just totally empty in here. It was just a kind of a collection chamber of sorts. Apparently the exhaust kind of gathers in this, it's like a 6-inch opening, and then just cones down to the stock 1 3/4 outlet. So really the only thing this thing's doing, aside from holding these hanger rods, is reducing the exhaust pressure back down to that pipe size. Now, the more interesting piece is this one, and you can see inside of here, that is a valve that is operated by this actuator here, and it seemingly has something to do with the coolant, because the coolant line comes in here. So it must be a pressure-related thing. My guess is when the coolant gets to temp, it has something to do with pushing this valve open, which then relieves some of the back pressure that's generated by this valve here. It does appear that valve, can't really get in there and keep it focused, but is completely closed. My guess is that area there, the exhaust around that outer edge, I believe the exhaust makes its way through there when the valve is closed. But this certainly would create some back pressure and potentially warm the car up faster. So kind of the next thing that we're going to look at doing, let's see if we can see what's in here. Yeah, see, that just goes right into the valve. I'm going to go ahead and cut this around this weld here next, and we'll see what's going on in there. All right, here we are in 3 pieces now. So I've already showed you this back piece, which isn't a resonator. Here's the center piece with the exhaust flap. This is what we had seen before there. What we got here is the other side. Now, all of those discs or separation walls apparently are what the coolant sits in. And so when the ICE, the internal combustion engine, is running and that flap right there is closed, it creates a bunch of heat in here, heats the coolant up. I assume they're doing this to get the heater working faster, but that flap is under a fair amount of tension. So I'm going to hold it open here, and you can see how that works. So it kind of seals against a gasket in there, a wound metal, and then watch when I let go. Pretty good amount of tension there, and it's controlled by that spring, and then the actuator valve or actuator rod is here, and I'm going to cut this open next so we can see how this works. But coolant comes in here. It looks like it, so it doesn't just hit a dead end, looks like it pushes into this chamber here, and somehow actuates this rod that is now cut in half. You can see what we've got on this side is a bunch of different areas inside of it. If you look closely, right there, there's a hole that lets, I imagine, the coolant pass on that outer shell. There's another one right there. You can kind of see it there on the. But interesting. All right, more pieces to show you. So I better get my glove. This thing's gonna be pretty hot. You can see here. This was the valve. This is the piece that the coolant comes in on this side right here. So coolant goes in there and pressurizes and pushes this rod. It's now cut in half, of course, and pushes that spring open. And the actuator's hooked here and gets this. It's hard to do with one hand, guys. I always try to see if I can get one of my guys to help me do this so I don't have to hold the camera, and we're always so busy fixing stolen cats on these things. I just don't have the means to pull one of them away. But that rod pushes that valve open like I showed you a little bit ago through that spring actuator there. And this would have been here. And that tube down below is where the coolant goes to recycle through this unit here, and then goes in the shell through these cavities inside of the assembly and makes its way back through, up through this tube and back up to the engine. So there you go. I've always been really curious what's in these things, and I assume that some people will be the same, and now you can see what's inside of the coolant pipes that go into the post piece on a catalytic converter assembly on a Gen 3 Prius. Yeah, so in closing, everybody needs to be aware of how Priuses are still very much a catalytic converter theft victim target, and we are starting to see a lot more of the Gen 3s. Of course, there's a Gen 2 behind me there. Those have not faded away at all, but the Gen 3s are starting to come around a little bit more frequently than they did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was always the Gen 1s, Gen 2s, and now we are seeing the Gen 3s. I will make sure that there is a video link here on the end that takes you to why you cannot drive a Gen 3 Prius missing its catalytic converter. I have a video out on the Gen 2 that you can drive it missing its catalytic converter because Gen 2s don't have the coolant lines. So, hey, listen, guys, thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate it. If you liked the video, leave me a comment. If you have any criticism, any questions, please subscribe. Certainly trying to build the channel. You guys have a great day. Thanks very much.